Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Shaw, and I am with the pre-sales team at Laserfiche, and I will be hosting the First Look Connector 10 webinar Part 2 for anybody who missed our first webinar last month on April 19th. And thank you all for joining us today, and a happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. Okay, so what is on the agenda for today? We'll be going through Laserfish Connector, what is it, why use it, and what's new. I assume most people have some familiarity with Connector, at least in terms of what it can do, functions, and features. However, just in case some of you don't, I'll do a brief overview of the capabilities as well. Please let me know if, again, for whatever reason, you can't clearly hear me, you feel I'm going too fast, or you'd like to see something. And the slides, as well as the recording, will be up later for your viewing pleasure. So, what we will be showing off today are 3 of the key new features with Connector 10, and that's the ability to use Connector to write data to an application, the auto search option, and the custom profile location. So, what is Connector? Well, it's an integration tool. Connector provides a streamlined experience for integrating Laserfiche with line of business applications such as customer relationship management or enterprise resource planning systems. And today we'll be showing off Connector with both Salesforce and PeopleSoft, so you'll get to see some live use cases on how you might use Connector in a live environment. I mentioned, again, there's a test utility here, as you can see. So we have a test utility that you can download to see if the program that you're trying to integrate with is compatible before actually purchasing Connector. And in terms of ease of use, Connector is wizard-driven, so there's step-by-step setup and walkthrough. So that's a tool that provides a way for you to easily integrate with any other application without programming. So it acts as your own programmer. So what can Connector do? At a basic level out of the box, Connector allows you to search the repository based on fields from a primary application, such as, again, a CRM or ERP system. You could also scan a page and automatically populate metadata and store it in Laserfiche, and again, directly based on information that you're grabbing from your primary application. So, for example, Connector can save information from a page in Laserfiche and then automatically launch Laserfiche scanning, populate metadata based on the page you're viewing, and then store the new document in the right folder. Another thing that it can do is import documents into the Laserfiche client and assign them paths, names, templates, and field values. And again, this is all based on information from your third-party application. And the way Connector does this is it uses tokens to perform searches and populate metadata. This means that once you've set up your search, you don't have to manually type any search terms. Instead, tokens will tell Laserfiche Connector what information to pull and locate. You could also do a few other actions, and again, these are native actions that were in Connector before, and I haven't touched on the Connector 10 new features yet. So with Connector, you could connect 2 applications by allowing one to start the other, including the ability to pass parameters between them. You could also open a website directly from a third-party application. And again, you choose whether these actions are triggered from either a keyboard shortcut or a button embedded in the application, or both. And again, if you have the need, these are just native actions, so you could tie it into an SDK script to get more advanced beyond the basics that Connector provides. So why use it? Well, let's take a top-down approach. So for organizations, it means faster decision-making and better insight. For IT, in the middle, it means less custom code and third-party integrations. And at the end of the day, for your end users, it means less clicking between windows and programs. So say you have somebody in your HR department who works in their line of business application, which would be an HR software on day-to-day, and they need to find related documents within Laserfiche. To find documents currently, you would need to type into the search field within either the client or web access to search what you need to do. But with Connector, you can set up a profile to automatically search based on a name, email, or address. So that eliminates the need to retype or copy and paste text from one program to another. And that way you prevent redundant data entry and you reduce mistakes. So if you're already a Laserfiche customer, it makes sense to maximize the utility of the software at your disposal without spending additional resources on building custom code or integrations. So what's new? So what we'll be showing off today, so the three main things with Connector 10 are Laserfiche Connector 10 now offers the ability to write data to an application. So creating a profile that gets information from one application and inserts it into another application. And once that's built and published, information from the first can then be written into controls of the target application, such as a text box area, documents, combo box, lists, etc. You can see the full list of what controls can be written within the Laserfiche administration guide for Connector. The new search action also has the option to automatically show the number of search results for a profile next to the Laserfiche Connector button. So if it's configured to show the search count in the target application, then the number of search results will automatically appear next to the connector. So you don't need to run the search and then navigate to another window just to see if the profile returned any search results. And lastly, we have our custom profile location. So now, with Connector 10, profiles can be loaded from a custom location such as a network drive. Loading profiles from a network drive will help you streamline deploying and updating profiles across machines. Previously, you could perform a command line or unintended installation and then copy the XML profiles to each individual user machine. However, this option now lets you store all your profiles in a central location, which makes it easier to update and manage all profiles. Instead of having to push them out manually, it's now updated automatically. And these features, in fact, were implemented based on feedback that we received from users and VARs from our Empower 2016 connector classes. So if you do have any specific use cases or feature requests, please let us know, because at the end of the day, if we take a look and we think that this is a usable use case and it's feasible, then perhaps in our next release you might see a feature request of yours in it. So what else? Now the assign templates and field import and scan into a document. Before, you were able to do so, but you weren't able to do so into a document currently open within the client. And this can also be done within web access as well, but the scan portion of that can only be performed in the client, not web access. And you can also specify entry type when configuring searches, whereas before you could do so, but you would need to type out the advanced syntax specifically within the search term. So now we've just made it a little easier for everyone to do so. And also languages. Previously we only had English available, but now we've added additional support for Spanish, French, Arabic, and Portuguese. So I'm sure you are all tired of hearing my voice. So let's get started with our demonstration so you can see exactly what Laserfiche Connector 10 can offer you. So the first thing that I will be showing off today is an integration between Salesforce and Laserfiche Connector and how you might use the two. So what I'm going to want to do is open up Salesforce. And I'm going to want to open up the Laserfiche client as well. So just for ease of use, I'm just going to break them off to the side. So one of the things that you can do with Connector is search for a client within Salesforce from Laserfiche. So say you're in Laserfiche and you're looking at a client account. So in this case, Michelle Miller, if I open up her file within Laserfiche, I see the relevant documents, information. But what if I want to find information relating to Michelle Miller within Salesforce? So now with Laserfish Connector, as you can see, a profile has been set up, and the icon here will allow me to do that. So if I search within Salesforce, you can see Connector has automatically populated the search field with Michelle Miller's name. And it's just a time-saving feature, so you don't have to manually type out and locate the client or document information. So now that we've seen Michelle Miller, let me open up the page a little more so it's a little easier to see. If I click into her name, you'll see generic and general Salesforce client contact page. And what you're also seeing is Connector running, and it's running the auto search. And previously, it wouldn't display the search results found, but now you'll see that 3 results are found. So when you're showing the search count, you can interact with the automatic search in a number of ways. So you could cancel the search. So as it was searching, you could click this link to cancel it. To run the search again, you can click the refresh button. And if you switch tabs between browsers while the search is running, the search action will pause. If you return to the tab within 5 minutes, the search will resume. However, if you don't return to the tab within 5 minutes, the search gets canceled. And refreshing a web page will not cancel or restart the search. And also, just a thing to note, if you have multiple Laserfiche Connector search profiles that are configured to show their search counts, and these profiles are configured for the same target page, only one search profile will be active on any given page. And that will be the active profile, will be the last profile listed when the profiles are ordered alphabetically by action name. So what we can do now is we can click here, so it'll show a list of the search results that were found. So you don't need to even navigate into another document. So let's launch this, and what you can see is it's automatically opened web access, and if I hit sign in, you'll see that the document has been returned within web access. So this is a nice feature, time-saving, and it allows you to be more efficient. Focus on your day-to-day, so you're not spending time retyping and typing or copy and pasting searches within different search bars to look for documents. So you can also look up information using Connector in another application. So say you wanted to find Michelle Miller's mailing address. You wanted to find the actual location where it was. You want to maybe see it on maps, see it on Google to figure out the location. So what you have is find mailing address. So this is using the write data action feature. So this is one of the new features within Connector 10. So if I hit find mailing address, what it'll do is automatically launch a search for her mailing address, and as you can see, it's brought it up within Google search. And you can configure it to automatically open up the application if it's not already open and search based on the parameters you've identified. And the last action that I will be showing with Salesforce is the scan in documents. So that's, again, a new feature that we have within Connector 10 is that you can add in documents and pages into an already open document. So if I open I have this document open, the new account application, and I have Michelle Miller's Salesforce page, her contact information open, where I want to grab the information from, what I can do is add pages. So, do you want to scan into the document New Account Application Michelle Miller? Yes, I want to add some pages. And where do I want to add it? I want to add it after the last page. And if you know what documents you want to add in to the file, you make sure it's targeting the right location. And I start scanning, and these are the additional documents that Michelle Miller has forgotten. So perhaps it's, in this case, banking and identification information. And then after you've confirmed that the documents are all correct, you can store into Laserfiche. Now, if I go back into the document originally, you can see that the additional pages have been added in with the appropriate information for Michelle Miller applied through Salesforce. So I'll just show you a setup of how you could set up your own connector profile for one of the new features, the Write Data feature. So perhaps we'll just do a demonstration of how the mailing address search was done. So if I'll just break this off to the right, close this, and I will open up Connector itself for the first time. So what you'll see within the Connector configuration page is a list of all the available profiles that you have configured to work. So a good thing about this is if you have a lot of profiles, as we do here, it's good to make sure that the names are differentiated sufficiently so you know exactly what each action is supposed to do. So perhaps you're going back, you're not confused when you're trying to figure out what exactly each profile does. So to add a new profile, what you want to do is click Add, and then it brings up the profile creation wizard. So the nice thing about this is, again, it's a step-by-step walkthrough. It tells you everything that you need to do. So the first thing that we want to do for our profile is to name it. So we'll just call it Search for Address. And we will specify the action that we want to do. And as you can see from the drop-down, it has a list of all the various actions that you could use Connector to accomplish. What we want to do is use the write data to an application. And you could choose to select that if you want to get information from an application, in our case Salesforce, or you could take it from the Laserfiche client as well. So what you'll want to do once you have selected where you want to get it from, you have to target that application. So you see the nice little bullseye here. What we want to do is just drag it, so click and hold. And as soon as you see the red box outline across Chrome, it means that Connector has picked it up. And then, as you can see, it's filled it out with process name, Windows class, and that just means the application has been targeted and what it's looking at. And then, as you'll see under here, there's a few different options in terms of analyze, so how it's reading that information. We have JavaScript, and that method should be used with most desktop applications and with websites displayed with Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox. But for whatever reason, if you can't select the controls you want with JavaScript, try the UI automation method. That will let you select different controls than JavaScript does. It's an application programming interface that allows you to access, identify, and manipulate UI elements in another application. And for whatever reason, if that doesn't work, you always have the option to OCR a page to extract text. So even if Laserfish Connector can't directly integrate with an application's controls, you can get text from any application using OCR. But in most use cases, you're just going to want to use JavaScript. And in terms of apply profile to, this means, do you want this profile to be available to run on the whole website, so on the entire Salesforce.com, or just on this particular page? And you can also specify using our regular expression calculator here to help you figure out where exactly you want the connector profile to run. For our case today, we're just going to do this page only. And then we move on to the next step, which is defining tokens. So we're trying to figure out now what it's running the search based on. So what information? And since we're searching based on mailing address, we're just going to drag, again, the target to the box, and you can see it's identified it. And as soon as I release, it's filled in the token content. And a token is just a bit of text that's automatically replaced with actual values. So in this case, it would be the address when the connector profile runs. And it just allows you to get up-to-date information, such as the current time, say the user who ran the profile, and again, all of the most recent information. So it's a placeholder. And you'll want to rename the token name as well. And again, this is just sort of like if you're leaving comments within code, it's just to help you remember what exactly each token or each name and what it does. So for this, we'll just put address. And again, we're just using one token, but you could add multiple tokens as well. So the target application. So what I'll want to do is just open up a copy of Google. And what we'll want to do is let's go with google.ca, because if you weren't aware, I'm actually based in Canada. So let's drag the target to the application. And as you can see, it's found the target application. And this is another option that you'll have. So you can see launch application if it's not already started. So again, if you don't have the Google search already open, it will automatically do that. In our case, we're going to have it open already to show you. And now we've moved on to the right controls area, so where it's going to be populating the tokens from the target application, and you want it to populate within the search. So what we're going to do is drag it to the search box, and as you can see, it's detected it, and we'll release. And now we just need to name the control, and we'll call it search address. And the value that we want to do is the original address token that we've taken from Salesforce. And that's all. Again, you could use multiple tokens. In our case, we're just showing off the search, and we'll just hit next. And you can assign a keyboard shortcut. And it's good to obviously not use the same keyboard shortcut, because obviously if you have ones with multiple, then it just makes things extra confusing. So we'll just select one here. And now you have a choice for button position. So where you would want to put the button on Salesforce, so when you search. And for us, we're just going to want to use the custom size that is already here within the Salesforce page. So you can make it larger or smaller based on what is your preference, and you can position it anywhere within the page. And you can allow users to reposition the button as well. So pretty straightforward. And finally, we have the test. And when you're testing, you're going to want to have the page that you're taking information from, so the target application, open for it to work. So let's test this out. So it's taking the mailing address, and it's populated it into Google. So pretty simple. Now, I will just click this. We don't need to add it because we already have one. That was just to show you the setup. And now I will log into PeopleSoft to show you that integration. And if for whatever reason the application that you're using needs a login, obviously you'll want to log in ahead of time or log in first before you can set up a connector profile. Within Connector, you can also use it to act as a shortcut key to connect pages within PeopleSoft's interface. So, for example, as a manager using the Manager Dashboard tool, you would create an action profile in Laserfish Connector that allows you to jump to a specific page in PeopleSoft, such as the Open Talent Summary. And that just saves you time. So, say we have that set up now, and click Open Talent Summary. It'll automatically bring you to that page. And this will direct you to a summary of employee names. So let's, in our scenario today, select Cynthia Adams. As you can see, we have already Laserfish Connector profile set up for an automatic search. So it's automatically found it next to here. So you'll see documents related to her returned, and it'll display that it's found for. And again, you can just click it, and it'll see what exactly within Laserfiche is related to Cynthia Adams. And again, we have the same location lookup available as you saw within Salesforce. So within here, it's just taking up, again, the location information and searching it within Google. And it's a nice, handy shortcut to save you time. Same thing with Laserfiche Search. If you run the search, it goes to the client, and it brings up all the related documents. Another neat feature is you can also say, if you don't want to search within the client, you can also search within another application. So one that a lot of people use is Microsoft Outlook. And perhaps you want to search all the related information to Cynthia Adams within Outlook. Maybe it's an email that you received from her, you just can't remember what exactly it was about. And these are all from one user, but related to different topics. So if I click on a previously already set up search, what we can do is search Outlook for emails related to Cynthia Adams. And it's automatically populated it within the Outlook search and returned the email related to Cynthia. And lastly, one thing that you can do is if you go to the Manager dashboard, you can also search the other way. So if I have Laserfiche open, and I go into Employee Files, Cynthia Adams, and let's open up this. This is a file related to Cynthia Adams, and we can search within PeopleSoft. And apologize for the opening and closing of screens, but as you can see, it's populated it within here, within the search term. Perhaps it wasn't clear before, so let me just delete it again and go from the client. And there you have it. So hopefully that was useful in seeing a few of the ways that you can use Laserfiche Connector. And so I've shown off the automatic search count and the write data to application feature. And lastly, what I want to show you is the custom profile location. So within Connector, you can go to Options, and not only can you choose the display language now with the additional languages that we've included, you can load profiles from a network path or, again, custom location that the perhaps administrator within your organization has created all the profiles and deployed them. So you can select, if you know where the network drive is or the location where the profiles are stored, to target that, so the end user will not have to deal with any setup at all. So, related to that, as I just showed you, you can load custom profiles from here, but if you're an administrator who is deploying it for the first time, the above syntax is for performing an unintended installation if you don't have Connector already installed on the user machine. So setting this parameter lets you make changes to the profile in a central location based on the custom profile location, and that way you will be able to automatically redistribute. You'll be automatically able to distribute and set up. So, a few things to keep in mind. You can change a profile's keyboard and shortcuts and clear user login information directly from Laserfiche Connector configuration dialog box. So that's the main page once you open up Connector. But if you want to make any changes, any other changes to your profile, you will need to edit the XML directly, as Connector profiles are saved as XML files. So if you have several changes to make or the changes are complicated, it might be easiest to delete the existing profile and create a new one from scratch. But if you are familiar with XML and comfortable editing it directly, obviously that is an option as well. And if you find an application you're testing is either compatible or incompatible with Connector, please let us know. It's helpful on our end to know exactly what applications aren't, and you can fill out an application compatibility form. Also, don't forget the help files. They have step-by-step walkthroughs for configuring all of the various Connector actions that we have available. And again, as I mentioned at the start, the Laserfiche Connector test utility lets you quickly determine if Connector works with an application. It's the same code as Connector, so if it works with the test utility, it will be compatible with Connector. And one thing we do recommend when you're testing out Laserfiche Connector is to use it on a sample or a generic page within the application. That way you don't inadvertently expose sensitive information, as the log file for the test utility does save everything. Oh, so that is wrong slide. Supported technologies. So this is a list of the supported technologies that we have confirmed with Connector, and you can see a full list on our website, either through the support site or the Connector administration guide. Just one thing to note is with the web browsers, they do need to be the latest version, and as you can see on the right side as well, I've listed a few things that aren't supported, but as I mentioned when I was setting up a Connector profile, the caveat is even if it doesn't work with perhaps JavaScript or UI automation, you can OCR everything and then use regular expressions to filter out the relevant portions. And here is just a list of supported applications. So previously it was technologies, now we're talking about applications, and we have on the left side are ones we've confirmed internally, so such as Gmail, Microsoft Dynamics, Office, PeopleSoft and Salesforce, as you saw earlier, and we have externally confirmed applications as well. So perhaps you're in the higher ed space, so you have Aptify, Banner, Datatel, which we're compatible with, but also Dynamics, QuickBooks, Sage, and SunGuard. And these are just a few of the applications that we've confirmed. If you want to take a look at the full list, that is available on our website through the support site, as well as the connector administration guide.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I'm going to go ahead. This is Justin Pava, as Kevin mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the questions that you submitted. I did already address some of those in the stream. So those ones where you actually have direct links. For example, information on the test utility, as well as lists of confirmed applications or the technologies that are not directly supported by Connector, although keep in mind, as Kevin noted, you can always OCR anything, are all in the documentation, which is available just through the Laserfish Connector documentation. Open up Connector, hit the Help button. I believe you can see the links that I posted. If that's not the case, as answers. If that's not the case, I'll repost them. They'll be in the Q&A form anyway. But that way you can see there a lot of information along this is in the documentation, including the confirmed applications list. We will be posting a Q&A sheet following the webinar, so if there's any questions I didn't get a chance to answer, go ahead, keep asking them. We'll include those in the Q&A sheet as well. All right, moving on to the specific questions. Version 10 compatibility, had a couple questions on that. Does Connector 10 only work with Laserfiche 10? No, Connector 10 actually works with earlier versions of Laserfiche as well. In order to use some of the specific web access functionality that's added, this is added support for importing or modifying template information directly through web access without needing a direct connection to the Laserfiche server. That does require web access 10. Everything else, such as writing data, does not require using Laserfiche 10. Since that's all within the connector engine itself. In a similar compatibility vein, our profiles created with version 9 of the connector compatible with version 10? Yes, they are. When you upgrade to version 10, it will read your version 9 profiles. I don't believe there's even a migration process involved. It'll just be able to read them as normal. Let's see. As far as confirmed applications, there were a lot of questions about, hey, does it work in this application? Does it work in that application? As Kevin sort of stressed throughout the webinar, one of the big things with Connector is that it's very generic. It makes use of standard web and Windows desktop technologies, generally the same technologies that control screen readers for accessibility. So in almost every case, if a product is fully screen reader accessible, Laserfish Connector will be able to read from it as well. We don't have access to every single one of the products people ask about, and that's why we have the test utility, so that you can go and try it yourself before you have to, license or obtain Connector. The test utility is something anyone can download from the support site. For our resellers, it's included as well within the VAR-Kit Connector installation package as well. So regardless, you can always get it from the support site. So one of the things we have is we have an application confirmation submission form. This is described in the documentation that describes how to use the test utility. And there's actually a form where you can submit the results of the test utility to us. And as we get confirmations, we're able to add that to our confirmed application list. So it's actually something where you all can help us confirm whether certain things are compatible. And if they are compatible, then it's, as Kevin mentioned, it's the same engine that Laserfish Connector itself uses. And if they're not, we can take a look at that and see what we need to do to add compatibility. So it's something I definitely encourage people to do in order to be able to get that. Let's see. But in general, since it's all generic technology, the standard answer is yes, it will work. And if it doesn't, you can always fall back on OCR and make use of pattern matching and regular expressions to pull out the specific value that you need. Let's see. Do we have documentation or training for getting started with Laserfish Connector? Well, I've mentioned the documentation a few times. We also have some posted getting started videos on the Laserfish support site that provide initial information of creating profiles, working with Laserfish Connector, deploying it, things like that. So that is also available to help get started with Laserfish Connector. Can you write data using tokens to a field in another line of business application? Yes, Laserfish Connector, again, provided that the fields are accessible. You can't use OCR to write, of course, but provided the fields are accessible, you can use Laserfish Connector to write between any line of business applications. In fact, Laserfish itself doesn't even need to be part of the process. Connector is generic. It can read from one line of business source application to a different line of business application as its target. So you can use it within Laserfish scenarios, bringing stuff into Laserfish, taking stuff out of Laserfish, but also between applications that aren't even tied with Laserfish as well in the first place. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, can a connector profile be saved as a shared path? Does it have to be local? That's specifically the custom path feature in 10 that Kevin talked about. So the idea is, in prior versions, yes, the profile did need to be saved on the local workstation, which caused obviously some deployment considerations. If you needed to update a profile, it added hardship to get it to be sent out. With the release of Connector 10, it can now monitor a specific shared location. So new profiles could be placed there, profiles could be updated there, and everyone will make use of it. Let's see. Does the list of verified applications support the new write data? Yes, they're the same. It uses the same technology. So if something can be read from, it can be written from. Of course, you can also use the test utility, which does provide checks for both reading and writing to confirm. But in all cases so far that we've seen, there's no difference between reading and writing. It uses the same technology. Let's see. Can you recommend any good applications that could be used to demonstrate Connector? Yeah, some of the ones that I've used personally, we used Salesforce, I've used PeopleSoft, I've used interactions within the Laserfish applications. For example, I'm using it to start and launch forms processes and to populate data automatically in those. Those are some of the scenarios I've used personally. I know our marketing group also has information on using Connector with other applications as well. Let's see. Will Connector work with Laserfish United? Yeah, actually, in fact, we've just, I believe, made Connector available with Laserfish United very recently. Up until very recently, it's been limited to Laserfish Avante and Laserfish Rio installations only, but it is now available with Laserfish United and Laserfish Team installations as well. In all cases, and this touches on another question, there is an additional licensing add-on price. Laserfish Connector is not included with any of the packages, but it is available to be licensed for any Laserfiche Rio Avante team united at this point. Can Connector get information from a web page and populate various other items? Definitely. That's part of being able to pull from two applications that aren't even making use of Laserfiche. In a similar vein, can Connector gather information from a web page, find a folder in the repository, and populate folder template fields? Yes, it can. That makes use of the update field and template action. The way the action works is you actually combine it with a search operation. So you'll get your data from the external application, from the web page in this case, and then you actually provide a search query, and Connector uses that in order to bring up the documents, folders that that are found based on the data you've pulled out of that external application, and then you can update the field data directly on that. And that's all natively in the updating field and template action. Just skimming through the questions, seeing if there's anything I didn't get to. Again, if you have additional questions, please feel free to write them in. Even if we don't get to them in the webinar, we will post a Q&A sheet that addresses them. Let's see. I think I covered all the questions that came up. Let me just confirm here. Yep, I believe I did. So in that case, again, thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Kevin, for running the webinar. And, we'll leave it open for a little bit more so you can keep posting any questions that you think of, and we'll make sure to include them in the Q&A site. Thank you all for attending.